Everyone dreams about living an uncommon life, but how we define that dream is very different for each of us. And for most, it's a lifelong pursuit. Welcome to the Uncommon Life Project podcast. We're going to introduce you to people who are living that life or enjoying the journey to get there. We're going to also give you some tools, tricks, and tips for starting or accelerating your own efforts to live an uncommon life, a life worth celebrating and savoring. Please welcome your hosts, Brian Dewhurst and Philip Ramsey.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Life Project, where I am your host, Philip Ramsey.
And I am Brian Dewhurst.
Thanks for tuning in for another episode. We have a really fun one for you today, as we always do. Thanks for tuning in, and also thanks for reviewing us. I know we've been pushing the reviews hard, but they are hugely helpful.
We're beating the drum.
We're beating that drum, and honestly, it really helps. We're trying to get, what is the country that we're trying to get number one in?
Belgium.
Kind of crazy, but let's just shoot for something. Let's be number one in Belgium. All right. So let me just read a review that we got. This was actually July 1st. It said, "Thank you for being the exact thing the industry needs. Most people want you to retire tomorrow because they hate what they do. If you love what you do, you never really want to stop. Figure out what you love to do and get paid for it. Keep going." And this was from the Traction Master. So thanks for reviewing that. Again, review, rate, subscribe. They actually do mean something. We'll read them for you. But anyway, let's talk and let's go to our guest for the show. Brian, Let's do the introduction.
Today, I'm excited. We have Evie Peterson. Evie, what started out as a catering company has now evolved into a full-service venue, coffee shop, and inn. She's committed to quality in her catering, that full-service venue is the way to go, and that we are an honest, hardworking company that wants all of our clients' events to be a success. I welcome to the show Evie Peterson of Nevada, Iowa, not to be confused with Nevada.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the show, Evie.
Good to be here.
Awesome. I want to go back because have you always wanted to do this? Was this your dream from the beginning, or has it evolved?
It's evolved. I've always wanted to own my own business. I feel like even as a little girl, I always had aspirations to do my own thing, to have a shop, or just depending on what I was interested in at the time. It always seemed to revolve around that, But
totally. Let's stop right there because I got a lot of questions. This is going to be how the whole show is going to go. I'm sorry about this.
That's fine.
Where do you think that has come from? Was your parents entrepreneurial? Was your grandparents? What instilled in you at an early age to be like, I want to own my own business?
I think my dad. Yeah.
Okay.
My dad is definitely entrepreneurial. Has that farmer gene that works all the time and wants to see things grow, and always needs to have a new project and do this, do that. Right. So yeah, I think
Thanks
my
for
dad.
entertaining my stupid questions. I just like.
You're good. You're good. No, I love it.
All right. So go ahead.
Yeah, and then when I was young, I worked under a chef for a lot of years at a camp and conference center, and that was really where I kind of decided and really just tuned into my gifts of service, and just that was what brought me the most joy, was serving. So it always has come back to that, and that's always been what I'm good at. So.
How many years ago was that?
Oh gosh, a million. 1994, 93.
Okay.
I was 14, 13.
Wow.
So, so that was high school. All through high school, then I was assistant chef to him and would work on the weekends, and just learn the craft of cooking and
cooking for mass quantities.
Yeah,
that's a whole different deal. Yeah.
So this was at Hidden Acres, correct?
Yeah.
Which is pretty known in the Iowa community. A lot of people know at Hidden Acres.
It's the largest camp and conference center in Iowa. And my dad is the one who was the executive director there, who's really the one who built it. So he took his entrepreneurial drive and put it into ministry and was able to grow that business and that to crazy proportions. So
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're cooking in high school, and you're cooking for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to cook for a family at dinner time. It's another thing to cook for 400 or 500 people at a time.
Yep. But that was how I learned. And so, I mean,
So where'd you take that after high school?
after high school, I went to Bible college for a year, missed work and missed camp in my home, and ended up coming back after a year. And the chef that had trained me all those years ended up quitting, and I took his position at 18 years old. And so I just
Come on.
worked.
Get it.
Like, yeah.
The
yeah.
grasshopper has become the master.
Yep. So I took his job and did that for about 4 years. Got married, and it kind of took a little break, and then, was back to it later. But
So walk us through how Farmhouse Catering, which is kind of your main catering business now, you have multiple businesses. That's why I wanted to have you on the show, because it's kind of evolved. You've kind of evolved into this just entrepreneur. And so walk us through how Farmhouse Catering got started.
Here's what I think is, I just want to edify what Brian is saying, is there's a lot of times when somebody starts down this uncommon path, and then they see this shiny object on the left and they start doing something that's not even what they're gifted at.
Yeah.
And so what I'm really excited about, kind of to unpack for you, Evie, is that you added on. You didn't abort. You didn't about face. You didn't do a 90-degree change. It was just 1 degree off to complement what you're doing. So I think I want to just preface this whole conversation with that exact thing, is you had add-ons that helped cash flow. So start with the Farmhouse Catering, and then we'll kind of work into how you added on things.
Yeah. So Farmhouse Catering started pretty small. I mean, the basis of it was, the inspiration for it was that we were living in the farmhouse that I grew up in, and like had a pencil drawing of that farmhouse. And that was my first logo. And it just really, I wanted to emulate comfort and home, and just, I wanted people to trust me. And I just felt like that was a good place to start. And since I was cooking at home, and just, I mean, that's what it was. I was cooking from my farmhouse. And
how many people would you cook for? Like, what was your biggest ones that you had in that kitchen that you had to cater for?
So I actually had access to the Hidden Acres kitchen at that time. So, I mean, I would use their, I would actually had my license out of their kitchen.
I see. Okay.
So it was just kind of, when I first started, I was living in that farmhouse, and I mean,
but you kind of shared, like, when you first got started, it was more like, pocket money, vacation money. This wasn't you getting back into the mix. It was more
this was
side income.
Side income, like, and I kind of concentrated on weddings and friends' weddings. And, there was a couple $1,000s here, a couple $1,000s there, but I didn't have a goal I had little kids. And so I wasn't in a mindset of, I need the career now, but I was kind of like starting it slow so that I would have it for later, and catering is really something that I found over the years that I could put kind of in a hibernation and then pull back out when I needed it, and it could kind of ebb and flow with my seasons of life. And so I've just kind of always done that, but
and so that started to come up. So at what point did you like, I need to go all into this thing and really start making this become more of a sustaining cash flow for my career in life?
Yeah. Well, it was really when things got rough at home, and my ex-husband was ready to walk away from our family. And I said, well, I know how to cook. I have this little catering company. I'm just going to ramp that up and just start hitting the pavement and start cooking for people. And so I got in with some pharmaceutical sales reps and started doing.
There you go.
Lunches.
Shout out to my friends at Pharmaceutical Land.
So Philip was a pharmaceutical sales rep.
Back in the day, you can't do that anymore. But it's considered bribery, to take the food into the doctors. But back in the day, they would be doing 3 or 4 lunches a week, and so I had this nice network and handful of pharmaceutical reps, I was like peddling to car dealerships. They serve different places that I knew treated their employees to
And I
lunch.
bet you it was a really good value for pharmaceutical reps, being that I was one, to have
you were.
a nice, good family home cooked
It
meal
was.
versus like Jason's Deli again. Like, how many times do I have to keep catering Jason's Deli?
Get Jason out of here.
Get Jason out of here. Okay, so sorry. Keep going. But so now that you got the catering thing up and going and you started putting more energy into it, you're starting to get cash flow out of it. And then when did you start thinking, wow, one, I feel like it's sustainable for my life, and two, I guess, provide for my kids and me. But then when did you like, I think we can make this even more? Let's talk about that tweak.
Yeah. When I got remarried to a man that was just awesome. And he was super supportive and said, you do whatever you want, like you just do this. This is what you're good at, and supported that. I had always known that it could be something big, but until he kind of came into the picture, I was never like completely encouraged to embrace it. Sure. And so he encouraged me and said, yeah, you just do this. It's great. It makes sense. And he's really, really savvy with money and business and he's just wise about things.
Did he have a career that he was bringing into the marriage too?
Yes. Okay.
Did that help in your like mind of like, well, at least we got some cash flow coming in?
Yeah, that helps. Okay. That does help. He has a nice job, and he is actually the one that bought the building. Gotcha. And then he's also he does construction and building rehab and house rehab. Sure. So we do a lot of that together. And we bought that building, and he said,
for our listeners, this building is in downtown Nevada.
Yeah.
And it's gorgeous, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. And that's where you're doing not only the food, but they can hold their event at your location and kind of get the full service treatment.
Yeah. And really getting that building was creating a home for Farmhouse. I mean, I was kind of a nomad until that point.
Yeah. No more Hidden Acres kitchen that you had to use.
Yeah. I hadn't used that for a long time. I had rented the kitchen at a country club and was kind of working out of that and catering, but knew that I wanted a home for Farmhouse. I knew I wanted a venue that I could control the environment. And
shout out to your husband for not only like supporting you, but like really supporting.
Like super support. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
That brought in like a whole other revenue stream, I imagine, of not only just the food and the catering, but now you've got the actual venue fees and
alcohol. We have our bar liquor license. And so now we were triple dipping into events is what I'd call it. Like instead of just
that triple dipping,
instead of just going to other places with food, we had them paying us for food and for the building and for alcohol, and
they're coming to you and you're not,
and they're coming to me. And all of a sudden those weddings that I was doing off site that were, $3,000-$4,000 are all of a sudden 10,
Right. For sure.
Yeah.
So let me talk through this. Did the menu change at all when they started coming to you?
Not really.
Okay. I'm just checking.
I mean, a little bit, but not the basis of it. I'm always adding stuff, but really the basis of it hasn't changed a lot since the very beginning. I still stick to what I know, and I still
sticking to the roots.
Yep. I still stick to the roots and what works. So
nice.
So you've been doing that. So then you added something else next door. So tell us kind of what was the genesis for adding the coffee shop.
So we started renting the building next door. I had a couple employees and we were needing some office space. And so we started renting the building next door and for office space. And there was all this extra room. And then then we said, well, maybe we should make sandwiches during the week. We're here anyway. And
Right.
we've got leftover lettuce and leftover this and that from our weddings this last weekend. Why don't we throw sandwiches and salads together, and people that work downtown can come and have lunch or grab their quick to-go lunch. So we opened up this little lunch box. Seriously, it was open Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and we just served soup, salad, and sandwiches, and people would come in. And so then everybody in town was coming in because we had like homemade soup and fresh salads and stuff that we couldn't get at Subway. They couldn't get at Subway and the Mexican place, which were the only other two options.
Yeah. We need a little diversification there. In the back.
So then people kept coming, and then they would say, oh, why don't you open a coffee shop? And I'd say, no, I don't want a coffee shop. I don't want a restaurant. And I've said for years, I don't want a restaurant. I don't want a restaurant, and people that know me have teased me, man, this place looks an awful lot like a restaurant.
I love it. What was the genesis of only doing the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? What was the thought process behind that?
It was really to use up our leftovers. I mean, I order all this food for the weekend for a Saturday event. And then there'd be like a 3-pound bag of lettuce left over. And there'd be all these mashed potatoes left over. And there would be things that, hey, I was thinking, okay, we could give it away, or I could sell it again.
Yeah. And I'm just going to step into your world for a second. For a caterer, your ultimate worst experience is when you don't have enough food. It's got to be like the worst thing. So you always are over.
Oh, we always overshoot.
Overshoot. I mean, you're like my wife. Like when there's only 2 people coming over, honey. Like, why do we have 16 steaks? I don't know. But for her, we cannot run out of food.
No, you can't run out. Like, it's a nightmare, and it's the scarlet letter, of the industry. You can't. And once you are out of food at one event, like, people will talk. If there's 400 people at that event, every single person knows, and so you can't get that reputation. And so we do really, really well with portion sizes and
so what forced you to add the coffee?
Did you move to Mondays and Fridays or the whole time?
Eventually we ended up being, we kind of expanded, and I said, we're open Fridays, and then we're open Mondays. And
it's a slippery slope.
Now every day of the week,
you
come in and get a coffee and a burrito, but.
Absolutely. And so when did you start the whole coffee thing? When you opened up more days, or is this before that?
So no, we started doing the sandwich thing in October, and by June, I had an espresso machine. So I really was saying, well, you guys keep buying sandwiches, we'll open a coffee shop, but I was hesitant. It's a small town, and there's been a lot of, everybody that's opened up coffee shop has failed in our town. Nobody has ever been successful. And a lot of that is because they didn't have the backup of another company, or they were trying to make a living off of it. I'm not going to get rich selling coffee in Nevada, but
it's a good compliment. It's just nice to say you get.
But I love, that's what I just love about your story is it's kind of like, you've added things, but they're just so complementary to the overall brand, your location, what you're providing to the community.
Yeah.
And I've gotten coffee there several times, and it's just neat.
Yeah. I'll never do anything that doesn't flow with what we're already doing,
Yeah. And I think that's a big part of our message is we see people pivot to things, and it's like, you don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a totally different business, where yours is always, I feel like, been enhancing the food and the experience and playing to your skill sets and resources. So you have one other, I know that's kind of the primary, those 3 things: Farmhouse Catering, Gatherings Event Center, and Farm Grounds Coffee. Those are your 3 main, businesses, sources of income, passions. But you've added another one that Philip and I talk about a lot. If you could tell us about the Farm Pond Inn.
Yeah. Well, my husband and I were able to buy our dream property 2 years ago here in Nevada. It's 9 acres in town. It's so pretty, right next to the creek, and we have a pond and big willow trees. But in that property, there's a big building that the gentleman who had owned it previously had built, and the upstairs had an apartment, and it was actually just like an apartment that he had built for his buddies or his son. Like, it was pretty plain. And my husband and I saw this building with that, and then there's a spot where we have our offices in that I'm here now, and then there's another spot with another kitchen for the company. But the inn really was a place, we were needing a place for our brides to get ready at gatherings. Gotcha. And so kind of started out as that, let's fix this up and make it real pretty, and they'll rent it. And so it really complements gatherings in that our clients will use it and get ready and spend the night, and their family will gather. So,
sure.
Yeah.
And is it on Airbnb too?
It's on Airbnb and Verbo. It's actually just about ready to go as a Airbnb Plus. Like,
nice.
It's so much nicer than a normal Airbnb. And it's also a certified inn. So like, it gets inspected every year and all of that stuff.
Wow.
So if we ever get to the point where we can't do Airbnb anymore, then
we'll just go to that, right?
we're okay. So, but
we're huge fans of that, kind of the Airbnb market.
It's so great.
And then, so you have 5 children in the mix of all these endeavors.
I do.
Can you just share what it's been like incorporating them into the business? I think as parents, we all battle the
great question.
Are we going to pay for stuff? Are we doing allowance? And you've got 4 businesses they could come into. So
yeah,
our listeners about
it seems like a good idea to have all the kids work for you. No, it's a great thing to have them, and they do work and they get scheduled. We kind of treat them like the other employees in some ways. Like, we've had to set up some parameters of you can't call mom and get out of your shift,
right? Wow.
Type things, but they fit in real well. I have encouraged my son to go and get a job at Fairway, just because I should have encouraged the girls to go and work for somebody else besides me, just to understand it's hard to employ your kids. And I worked for my dad for years.
Sure.
I understand that relationship. But yeah, they're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna be okay, and they're gonna be hard workers. And
sure.
I'm gonna go hard right here. So hang on.
Yeah.
Tell us about Bridezillas. Do you have any Bridezillas up in Nevada?
Oh, Lord have mercy. Yes.
Give us your best story.
So a long time ago, I had this girl that, Miranda. Can I even say her name?
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I appreciate it.
Well, we called her Crazy Miranda. Okay. Is what we called her. But she wanted insane things for her wedding, like these little tea sandwiches. And she brought me this folder full of recipes that she wanted me to make. And then she wanted to take down the price to nothing. She wanted me to do it for basically free, and I was like, I cannot do this. And then at one point she was yelling in a meeting and of this that we got to the weekend of the wedding, and I seriously was dreading it. I said, I can't even go shopping for this stuff that this girl wants. I cannot stomach this wedding.
Yeah. And
Friday afternoon, the groom came in with his checkbook. He paid the bill and he said, I'm paying my bill and you guys have the day off tomorrow. I'm getting the heck out of here.
Oh my goodness.
He walked out?
He walked out.
He left Crazy Miranda.
Oh my goodness.
So that was the best ending scenario of a Bridezilla.
Oh my God.
Wow.
You do have to get to the end of it with them. But that was one of the wilder.
You didn't disappoint.
Story. That is a great story.
Oh, it was awful.
Crazy Miranda.
What what is doing all this done for your faith, and can you just share a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it continues. I continue to love to serve, and so it just really, it's just, it's strengthened my faith. It's strengthened my love of people. And I think just my abilities to work with them and show love to them, and compassion for people. I mean, in the business, we believe everybody deserves the best, which is what God has for us, the best, and, yeah, it's just really, it's really showed me that, like, if I serve with him, along with him, that, like, amazing things happen and people are blessed. And sometimes people will just look at me when I say things that, like, oh no, we can do that. Whenever you say yes to somebody and you just embrace them and say, we can do that for you, the surprise sometimes is amazing. The surprise that they have, like, I can't believe you would do that for me, and that's Jesus. Like, that's what it is. Like, he'll do whatever, he'll do those amazing things for you, and I don't know.
Have you ever read the book Love Does by Bob Goff?
Yeah,
okay.
I have.
That seems like it would be right up your alley. See, I'm not steering you wrong.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Okay. Well, man, it seems like God's really blessed you in your path. And for sure, all this stuff that's, in front of you, it has to be daunting at times, but Farmhouse Catering has evolved to something that's bigger than you.
Yep.
And that's why we wanted you on the Uncommon Life Project, because you get to wake up and you get to do something that you love to do, serve people that you love to serve, and bring a little bit of peace of, I'd say, the gospel to every person that you serve. And that to me is the biggest thing. Like, when do you want to stop doing this? I think your answer would be like, well, never. I love this. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like, I want to keep being more efficient and thinking about ways to do it different. And that's, I think, our biggest, if we could say one thing that we've done in the past 7 years that we just keep hearing over and over, people want to truly retire tomorrow if they could. Mm-hmm. And if people were loving what they do, they would never want to stop. Yep. So it doesn't have to do about retirement. It has everything to do with, like, how has God gifted you and how can we help you align your money to those giftings and get you to wake up in the morning getting excited about what you do, for how you do it, for the people that you love to do it for. Mm-hmm. And so to hear your enthusiasm and the way that you bring an uncommon approach to even serving espresso coffees is inspiring. And I think that you need to know that. I'm sure the people that you've served feel that. And to be able to have a husband that supports you in that is invaluable. And the fact that he wrote a check to have a building to complement all this stuff is the reason why you have 4 or 5 income streams. And so kudos on you and your husband, because it's not always easy, but it sure is rewarding. Sure. And even when things don't go your way, which I think that obviously you talked about a little bit, you ended up being more of a character building. Like I always talk about James chapter 1, producing endurance and steadfastness. Like, that's what happened. And you would never change that. Like, some of those hardest moments in your life are the things that I would say shaped your character for what they are now. And so now you have 5 kids to pour into to the next generation. How do you get to offset some of the experience that you have and help them try to have that, I want to run my own business like my mom does? Because I think there's some people who look up to their parents that run a business. They're like, I don't want to do that ever. Like, so how do you kind of push into your kids and the next generation in that?
I make sure they see that I enjoy it. I mean, it's really a part of our life, and we make them a part of it. And I don't make it this, I gotta go to work. They never see that in me. And what's kind of cool is they see other people in their lives that are like, I gotta do the daily grind, but they also, as they gotten older, they've seen the benefits of having a mom that is self-employed, that I'm the boss and I can go and pick them up and go do things or be available, a lot more available than the parent working 9 to 5 down in Des Moines, I just hope that I just want them to see that they can have a family and they can have a job that they love. And I've just encouraged all of them to, we haven't pushed college or any preconceived, you need to go make a whole bunch of money.
Uncommon life.
That would be the worst. Like that would be the worst thing ever is if they would just go to make a whole bunch of money and be miserable. And so I see it in my 2 older girls. I've got one who just wants to travel and she's going to make no money whatsoever. Like she just wants to travel and be an artist. And so 2 things that are like, yeah, it's great. And I'm like, go for it. Do it. Whatever you want to do, So he heads to Japan in 20 days for a year.
Wow. And good for him.
And so I'm just so excited,
Now's the time to do it, right? Let's figure it out. Yeah. So where's the future for you, Evie, and Farmhouse Catering? What do you see on the horizon for you? Or maybe not, like nothing. I don't know. You're content.
I'm preparing for that next step of kind of handing over a lot of the business. I would like to get a general manager into my company eventually that kind of handles that day to day. It has to be the right person, so I'm just prayerfully considering some options. And my husband and I both have said, yeah, it would be nice by next summer for someone to be handling a lot of the pieces and juggling. And then I can continue to create and kind of help on the back end and so I have other ideas. There's other things in my wheelhouse, of course, always.
Wheels are always turning over there.
They're always turning, I kind of have a older version of myself plan that does a little more gardening and runs my inn and
that's good.
I don't know, does some farm to table stuff and some more purposeful, smaller type events. So
sure. Yeah. Well, I don't want to get on my soapbox too much, but here's the deal. At the end of the day, this whole uncommon life, you have to have a plan. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so Brian and I have been, for the last 7 years, helping people get plans for their uncommon life.
Yeah.
And really what it boils down to is, do you know your budget? And if you know your budget, you have a savings account, right? And then once your savings account's big enough, then you can go into this investing world where you are at and where you've obviously saw success with Farmhouse Catering. Once that Farmhouse Catering and all the other little venues have done enough to cover your monthly expenses, now you can just you kind of go into the 4th phase of what we call it, of time freedom.
Yeah.
And time freedom this is the best part, because if you do the investing correctly, you actually get to time freedom. You're like, I want to do it better. I want to tweak it a little bit more. I want to hire somebody to be able to run it so I can go on a monthly vacation and it doesn't fall in the face. But it's always about engaging in something you love to do. So I would say that you are in time freedom and now you're looking back of but I can make it better. And that's the coolest thing about this whole uncommon life is if you do it right, you actually are way more passionate about working in the business that you've created for the life that you've always wanted.
Yeah.
And so good on you, Evie.
Well, thank you.
Oh, I like it.
So how can our listeners, if they want to hear more or eat your food or taste your coffee
or stay in your Airbnb,
or stay at your Airbnb, how can they get a hold of you?
They can find us online at www.farmhousecaters.com or gatherings.com. Yeah. What is it? www.gatheringsnevada.com. But they all intertwine. If you just Google me personally, it all shows up.
Gotcha. Very cool.
It all pops up. So
we can't wait to hear and see what God has in store for you with this new chapters. And we hope you find that general manager. And thank you so much for sharing your story today.
For sure.
Oh, thank you.
You've been listening to the Uncommon Life Project. I am your host, Philip Ramsey.
And I am Brian Dewhurst.
And we hope you come back for the next episode of the Uncommon Life Project. Have a great night. Bye.
That's all for this episode of the Uncommon Life Project. Brought to you by Uncommon Wealth Partners. Be sure to visit uncommonwealth.com to learn more about our services. Don't miss an episode as we introduce you to inspiring people who are actively pursuing an uncommon life.